Oh, well, there we go.
Yay! We're
Hi.
live! Hailing frequencies are indeed open. Welcome everybody to the Unready room. That's what we're doing, not
This
positively
place,
track.
yeah. This place.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Living up to the brand, as always. I'm Dan Gunther. With me, as always, is Brandi Jackola. Brandi, you're looking very festive tonight.
You know how I do it every year. This is how we do it.
I love it.
And it's Dave's fault. Just remember that.
Mhm.
This, Dave's fault. Not that I'm complaining. I really enjoy it. So,
I love it. So we're here to play a little bit of catch up as we do every once in a while and talk about 2 episodes of Star Trek Prodigy. We have episodes 15 and 16, Masquerade and Preludes, which I'm really excited to talk about. This show just keeps getting better and better and better, and I'm loving it. Uh,
mhm.
and my name today, Get It Done. I've put just in honor of the return of Ronnie Cox, Admiral Jellicoe now to the Star
Mhm.
Trek universe. Very happy to have him back. And Brandi, I see you've got some rock talk on your name there.
If I'm going to do a quote, it's most likely going to be Rock Talk.
She's so awesome.
She is
Did you
so
say
awesome.
science? I love her.
She's the best. I love her so much.
Yeah.
So much.
Oh, people have noticed my Canadian tuxedo. Yeah, it's a little chilly here.
Nice.
It
Right.
actually warmed up quite a bit today, but then the wind really blew through. So, um,
Yeah, that was us on Thursday night and Friday morning, so I get that.
mhm. It's yeah, I've been on the record before as saying I'd take -25 with no wind over like -5 and blowing wind. Like I hate it.
Agree. Agree.
hmm but yeah, we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about Prodigy. So
How pedestrian talking about the weather.
it's what we do at this time of year. That's Alberta, and I'm assuming probably also Utah this time of year. It's just what we
Mhm.
do.
It's what we do.
What is -25 in freedom degrees? So -25 Celsius to Fahrenheit. Come to the Unready room and watch us Google stuff.
Hmm.
-13. So -25 is -13.
So
Minus
very freaking cold.
Yeah, and -5 is 23 Fahrenheit. So I would rather take whatever the last one -13 over 23 degrees with blowing wind. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Agreed.
absolutely. Yeah, still cold AF. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just yeah, it blows right through
hmm
you, that wind.
Yeah. Oh, we're talking about weather again. What are we doing?
Sorry,
Star Trek
sorry,
Prodigy.
sorry. Here, let me help. Sorry. I'm sorry we did that.
I'm the Canadian Brandy. What are you doing?
Yes, I was trying to help.
Aw. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so Masquerade, we're picking up. A lot of these episodes I'm noticing we're just kind of flowing one into the other. There's really
Yeah.
an ongoing story going on. But this one centers mostly around the Dauntless or the Protostar having taken refuge in the neutral zone, and they're going to seek out somewhere they can stop and make repairs. And of course, Captain Okana is on board, and he has the helpful suggestion of this wonderful locale with this huge space elevator that they can make a stop at, which works for him because that's where he was headed. So very
Space elevators!
that was
Love a good
pretty
space
cool.
elevator.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of this. I think the only time we've really had that shown in Star Trek was the Voyager episode Rise, which mm,
Or lower decks.
Lower Decks. Oh my goodness, yeah, that's true. That's true. That was a good space elevator. I mean, if you've
Mhm.
got a space elevator, you need to have like skydiving involved. And that's what this episode and that Lower Decks episode did well.
Imagine that.
I think it's a little easier when you can just animate it.
I I agree.
But yeah, I really, that's one thing I loved, the locale in this episode. I loved seeing, like Rock Talk says, it's so sciency, and we've got all this, a lot of stuff going on, and yeah, I really love the location in this one.
Me too. The visuals were very, very good, but the visuals are always very, very good in this show. They're
Hmm.
just, it's a stunningly beautiful show on top of it being fun, intelligent, emotional, interesting, for all ages.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's, I mean, one thing I'm really getting from this is there's a very clear kind of lesson being imparted in the episode, but it's not talking down to people. It's not, taking them by the hand and, treating them like kids, right? It's
Mhm.
intelligent. I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, when I watched The Next Generation as a kid, there were times that I learned words from TNG and stuff. I was like, I had no idea. In this episode, Dal uses the word perspicacious, and I'm like, yay, that's awesome. Some kid somewhere is gonna like, what does that mean? Flipping through a paper. What is this? 1982? Come on. But you know what I mean. Yeah, they'll Google it. I
Love
know.
it. Yeah. And then sagacious on top of that. Just,
Exactly. Very nice. Um,
I think most of us were like, "Perspi what? How do you even spell that?" I would bet
oh,
money. Did we get frozen
I
for a
think I've
second?
I think I first heard it on The Simpsons.
Mm,
Oh, I'm not sure. Hope I don't know who that was. Are we caught up now?
I think we are caught up.
A little bit of a
Or
delay, but
may
okay. All right, we can
bit of
live
a
with it.
delay. Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. It's fine.
All right. Um, yeah, so okay, we spend some time with Okana in this episode, and that's kind of one of the main drivers of this is Dal is pretty immediately jealous of how the crew seems to be reacting to Okana. And I mean, he's I would say like suave and stuff, but I mean, not really. I think everybody's just being polite. He's got like a stained shirt, and I don't know. I don't know. I honestly think everyone's just being really polite.
I never thought of Okana as being suave ever,
Oh no.
like,
No, he's a con man
ever.
is what he
Yeah.
is.
He thinks he's suave, but
Hmm.
everybody can see right through him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's grating on Dal that everybody seems to be kind of you know, warming up to him, and he's getting jealous. And that's I think something a lot of us can relate to, just on a very basic level at some point in our lives, kind of thing. And I think that worked really well as the motivation in this episode, because at first, when he's presented with this offer to unlock his DNA, right? Like, he finds out where he's from, and he's genetically augmented and grown in a lab, basically. And this scientist has this miracle implant that can unlock his potential, as she says, and bring out the best in him. It's the easy fix. And initially, that lesson from Hologram Janeway goes through his head, where she said, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And he understands that. But right at the last second, there's just that one more little bit from Okana, and everybody kind of like, agreeing with what he says, or going along with him. And he's just like, and takes the easy way out, which, again, I think we can all relate to at least the temptation of that at some point in our lives.
Agree. And it's one thing that's weird to me is is Janeway saying If it's too good to be true, it probably is, which if you start to deconstruct that as its sentence, it doesn't make sense. The proper saying is, if it sounds or if it seems too good to be
Mhm.
true, it probably is. And I'm
Yeah.
like, so if it's too good to be true, it probably is. That's not a working sentence.
No, but we all understand the meaning kind of thing, yeah.
I know, it just bugs me. I'm sorry, grammar nerd coming out. It's just like, but that's
Mhm.
not how you say that. Janeway should know better. It's fine. It's fine. But no, I
Well,
get
that's
the sentiment
yeah.
is correct. The sentiment is correct. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's a quote from something though, because I've heard that formation of it before. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. I think somebody said that somewhere, and
Oh, I'm
that's
sure.
referencing that particular quote. Yeah. Um, good advice generally.
Mm,
And
mhm.
but Dal takes that easy way out. So um yeah. Luckily, anything genetic in Star Trek is very easily reversible, so, that's always good, but
Is it always though?
in Star Trek, yes, absolutely. I even made the comment when we watched this episode at the end that, like, when they wave the light over the stuff to make it disappear, that doesn't
Right.
even usually happen they don't even have to do that in Star Trek. Usually it just, like, they fix the DNA and it just automatically disappears. They don't even have to wave a little doodad.
That's fair. That's fair. I was just racking my brain. Has there ever been a time where it was not reversible? And I can't think of one, but that's a lot of Star Trek episodes to try and go through in my brain. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
Well, I
to
think,
research
like
this now. I want to know.
yeah. Well, I'm like Tom Paris and Janeway, they bombarded them with some particles and turned back into normal humans from the salamanders, and all of the de-evolved people in TNG Genesis. I think Crusher probably just gave them Data and Picard gave them a hypo spray and they were probably fine. Oh yeah, no, they showed Ogawa, right? She just started like turning back into yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. Not painful at all, I'm sure.
No,
You would
no.
think that would be painful, right?
Yeah, you would think
Genetic
so.
ma genetic manipulation while you're conscious? I think that would hurt.
So, okay, when Dal is changing, we see Klingon, we see Vulcan. Um, I didn't go over it, but somebody was looking at all the different symbols on the computer readout of the various things that augmented his DNA, and like there's Romulan in there. There's I think somebody said there was Tholian, and there's even one icon that just says Q. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
What?
Yes.
I did not see that. Oh my word.
I
Oh
haven't
my
seen it
word.
myself either, but I was just reading about that. I'm like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me?
How would they even do that?
I don't know. There's a Dominion symbol. So like that's multiple,
Oh,
like,
wow.
is that Vorta? Is that Jem'Hadar? Is that Founder? What's going on there?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. We only see the familiar ones though in Dal, don't we?
Yeah. They keep it a little limited, thankfully. What was that blue goo and where was it coming from? That
I'm
was
gonna guess it
disturbing.
had something to do with the Andorian aspect of him coming
Hmm.
out. That is my guess, but I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Actually, the scientist even mentions Organian, and I'm like, oh, how? What? Okay, crazy.
Yeah, there was,
Yeah,
yeah, there's, I can't talk about that, never mind. Anyway, sorry.
I'm glad he didn't turn into a big glowing ball of light, at least. So that's good.
Yeah, that was good, because then he would just have to possess other people's bodies after that if he wanted to be, corporeal, and
Hmm.
that's kind of a drag, trying to find a willing host or unwilling, you know? It's not the best situation.
Yeah, not ideal, let's say. So yeah, meanwhile on the Dauntless, they're confronted by the Romulans. They're prevented from going in after the Protostar. And that's where we get Jellicoe, because we get a little bit of a confrontation between him and Janeway. And Jellicoe's orders are, if you can't retrieve them, if you can't, if it's going to fall into Romulan hands, destroy the Protostar. And that's kind of informing a lot of what Janeway has to do in this episode, which, um, I get it. You're behind a desk at Starfleet. You have Romulans on one side and a super secret starship on the other. Yeah, if you're not in the field and you're not worried about a bunch of kids, I guess, yeah, that's the decision you make. But
And come on, if he were still in the field, he'd make the same decision, and you know it.
You make a fair point. You make a fair
Mhm,
point.
mhm.
But boy, was it great to hear Ronnie Cox back
I
as Jellicoe.
know,
I'm
I
so happy.
know. I love me some Ronnie Cox. Can't stand
Mhm.
Jellicoe, but I love me some Ronnie Cox. But I can't stand
uh,
Jellicoe in a good way, if that makes any sense.
yeah. I actually have come around to really liking him in the Chain of Command two-parter. Like, I don't know. This is a total side discussion, but I really feel like Riker was way out of line for a lot of parts of those episodes. And yeah, anyway, like, yeah,
I
that's
agree
a
with that. I agree that the crew was really whiny and really
mhm.
petulant, but at the same time, he was terrible at dealing with people.
This is true. Yeah. I
So it was
loved
kind of a combined effort of terribleness.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of terrible with dealing with people, I'm just taking a Chain of Command sidetrack here. My most recent rewatch of that, my favorite scene, and I absolutely love it, is when Troy comes to talk to him about how he's talking to the crew and that sort of thing, and he like seems to thoughtfully listen to everything she says, and he's like, I'm going to ask you to take the lead on the whole crew situation. I don't really have time for that, but it sounds like you have it well in hand. Thank you, counselor. Also, change your uniform. Dismissed.
Yeah, that is
Like,
the best thing he did. The best thing he
love it.
did was make Troy wear a uniform, because that's the best outfit she has throughout the entire series.
Absolutely 100%. Ah, okay. Anyway, but it was great to see him here. He got a promotion, deserved. Jury's probably out on that, but
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, Um, so yeah, that kind of basically comes to a head when Janeway actually orders the torpedoes fired at the Dauntless right at the end. And it's like seconds away from impacting when they realize, wait, the kids beat the Romulans. Who are these kids? Which was almost the name I picked because I love that line. Who are these kids? That was
Yeah,
wonderful. So, a typical Trek countdown moment, right? And averted at the last second. That was really fun. I enjoyed that.
it was fun. This whole episode is just full of adventure
Hmm.
and the scraping by the skin of your teeth, or being rescued by Murph, because Murph is a badass.
Yes. Okay. Because I want to talk about Murph.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, he has changed into this little toddler type thing,
yeah.
I guess.
Literally and
And
figuratively, yes.
yeah, and wow. They have definitely found their new security officer. That was great. And then like at the end when he's like morphed into like a protective bubble around the
Mhm.
elevator and just kind of like cooing contentedly as they go.
Yeah,
That was terrific. I loved it.
yeah. I love him scrambling to get out of the ball, and Dal's like, "Let him go, let him go," and he jumps out and just decimates the Romulans. It's
Hmm.
just so great.
That
It's
was
so
wonderful.
great. I love that sequence so much.
Oh man. Yeah, I really enjoyed like like you said, this episode, it's just packed full of like adventure and um not like over the top isn't the word I want to use, but like it's at 11 for most of the
Hmm.
episode, and I really really enjoyed that. I thought that was fun. um Okana, I love, by the way, when he shows his true colors and just like an admiral and now a Romulan strike team. Okay, bye. And he just is gone. And that's
Hmm.
it. That's the last we see of him.
Big surprise.
Yeah. And I loved when Gwyn, basically mentions that at the end, that like, you'll never be as good as Okana. You're better. He left. Like, you're gonna stick with us. You're our captain. I love that.
Yeah, that was great as he's trying to talk around his Tellarite teeth and with his Klingon forehead and his Andorian antennae and his Vulcan ears, or are they Romulan? I'm not. No, it's Vulcan. He was being
Hmm.
very Vulcan earlier.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
maybe a little bit of both. I mean, they have a common ancestor. Just, I felt so bad for him in this episode because the devastation of being told that, he was just a bunch of cells and grown in a
Hmm.
petri dish for all intents and purposes, and just and to be considered a failure on top of that. It's just like, wow.
Hmm.
That can turn a person dark if you let it.
Yeah,
Thankfully, he is surrounded by good people who care about him.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, the one thing that I loved is there's kind of almost a confirmation of a sort of half-formed theory that I had way back when the series started, which was that Dal is from the Federation and may be speaking Standard or English, because uh, they talk about Gwyn interpreting all these different languages and not being that familiar with Dal's initially, and but then making the pun that they're in cat boots. And I was like, the only way that, and I mean, I wasn't sure, is like, I don't know if the writers put this much thought into that joke, but if they did, the only way that works as a pun is if Dal is speaking Standard or English, and we've not met a human or anybody from the Federation at this point yet. So I
Mhm.
was like, is he speaking English? Is he from the Federation? And he might very well be, given that his base genome was apparently probably Homo sapiens, as the scientist said. So he's essentially human, just augmented human. And it's possible he's been speaking Federation Standard this whole time, which is really cool. And if so, that cat boots thing, I was like, that's a really nice clue really early on.
I don't think it's an if. I don't think that they deal in ifs on this show. They know exactly what they're doing with
Hmm.
every episode and exactly what clues they're dropping. So I think that that is entirely purposeful.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I'm going to mention the Eric Soon name
Mhm.
drop because I think Patrick's going to explode if I don't mention it.
I was gonna get there, Patrick. Patience, patience. I love an Enterprise name drop of any kind, so it was very exciting for me because I'm just like hitting Dave whenever stuff like that happens. I'm like, Organians, Dave and Eric Soon.
Hmm.
It's good times, good times. I mean, I know that Organians aren't specifically only an Enterprise reference, but come on, that was a great episode.
That's a good one. Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. So at the end of this episode, there's another big thing at the end that we haven't talked about yet. But at the end of this episode, they get away from the Romulans. They're just narrowly avoid getting destroyed by the Dauntless, and they're still in the neutral zone. But meanwhile, of course, on the Dauntless, we have Ensign Essentia, who's been getting closer and closer to the Diviner this whole time and trying to talk to him and stuff. And we get that reveal where, like last episode, I was like, there's something up with her. I didn't know what,
Mhm.
but like, there's something. She's very into this. And then, yeah, we get the reveal. She is also a Vonnegut and is, uh, what does she say is like, you weren't the only one sent to find the protostar or something like that. And dun, 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 we get the
Mm.
reveal there. So,
And Dreadnought
ooh,
was the table the whole time.
I love that. She's got her own dreadnought and he was
Mm.
the table. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. That was awesome and horrifying at the same time.
Hmm.
Uh,
Oh, yeah.
but here's my question. How did she pass a Federation bioscan, medical bioscan?
I don't know.
How is that possible? Oh, I just answered my own question. She's from the future.
I was gonna say there's that. Um,
It just now occurred to me. Thank you for all of you being here while I had that epiphany. Appreciate it.
yeah. Well, I mean, not wanting to necessarily jump ahead yet, but the question went through my mind too. We find out in the next episode that she arrived like 3 years earlier. And I was like, oh man, how did she infiltrate Starfleet and get to where she is? And I mean, I'm sure we'll find that out at some point. But I was like, I guess she's just an ensign, right? Like she could have,
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm assuming she didn't like go to the academy and graduate and become like, is there an ensign essentia that she took the place of? Maybe I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. There's too many question marks in there for that yet, but I'm sure we'll
Maybe
find
she
out more.
maybe she tested out of a bunch of classes.
That could be. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if they do that in Starfleet Academy, but hey, why not?
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know.
It's possible.
Well, with that said, is there anything else from this episode that we haven't talked about? I feel like we went through it at kind of a breakneck pace, but we have been talking
The
longer than
episode
the
was like
episode is.
that. Yeah, the episode is at a breakneck pace, really.
It's true.
So,
Yeah.
I really appreciate how Janeway is not willing to believe that these kids are criminals.
Hmm.
How she is willing to try and understand what is really going on. And, it's just I just really appreciate her open-mindedness and not being a whole thing where she's convinced that they're bad and they've done something with Chakotay and she's going to get her revenge or whatever. So I just appreciate that angle of it because it's unusual. It's not what typically happens in shows like this or even kids shows like this. It's so refreshing. That's the word I'm looking for. It's refreshing. I
Hmm.
really enjoy that.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I don't think I have too much more to say about this other than I just there's this cast is really gelling and I love just kind of the banter and stuff at the beginning. And I remember sitting down to watch it the second time and I started to like jot down some of my favorite interactions and then I realized like, oh no, there's just the whole first act, like just the
Mhm.
back and forth and the science and the, you know, I really like them all. So um, yeah, I guess I'll open it up to folks in the comments to share their ratings, final thoughts, and Brandy, if you would like to as well.
Phew. It's it's a great episode. It's I love how they mix quieter episodes with episodes like this, and it never feels like it's out of place. It never feels forced. And so I really enjoyed this, even though Dal's revelation just broke my heart so much. And it just it just I feel so bad for him, but I think that this episode was well paced, well put together. Loved everybody's interactions. Loved Murph. Um, Loved Cranky old Jellicoe again. Even though I don't like Jellicoe as a character, but I do. And so I give this one giant space elevator because I love a
That's a good
space
one.
elevator.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. Like I said, the banter, the back and forth. I'm loving the the quick pace at which things are happening, like not
Mhm.
just like within the episode, but overall in the series, like you kind of, I mean, we're both from a slightly older generation where it felt like shows would have a premise and that would be the premise for the show. Like I think last
Yes.
time I talked about, Dr. Claw and Inspector Gadget. It's like, oh, next time
Yes.
Gadget. Like that was the format. It was like, oh, cat and mouse game, hero gets away, bad guy gets away, blah, blah, blah. But this is an evolving story. Janeway's learning more about these kids, and like they're learning more about the Federation and getting closer to the Federation and learning more about their past, and it's all kind of playing out. And I love that. And sometimes like my old school brain needs to be like, oh yeah, no, this isn't an 80s and 90s show. This is something else. And I love it.
And thank God for that. I'm sorry, I was trying so hard not to laugh at Mossy's rating. IKEA dreadnought coffee table line.
That's really good. Oh.
If it'll talk to me in Jimmy Simpson's voice, I'm in.
Absolutely. Oh man. Um so speaking of really good episodes, um my goodness, maybe I hate that word favorite because I'm also coming off of new episode energy, right?
Mhm,
Recency
mhm.
bias, but
Yeah.
Preludes.
Mm.
Wow. Wow, what an episode. Um
Hurt my heart so much.
and I want to read the writer credits for this episode because it's obvious it's one of those episodes where there's different segments and it's obvious different people contributed to the different segments. So in what I'm assuming is a list of everybody in the writers room, this episode was written by Kevin and Dan Hageman, Julie Benson, Shauna Benson, Lisa Schultz Boyd, Nikhil S. Jayaram, Deandra Pendleton Thompson, Chad Quant, and Aaron J. Waltke. So I'm assuming that's what's going on, is everyone in the writers room contributed a bit to this episode. And it's it's incredible. I love this.
Mm.
It's perfectly titled as well. We get the backstories basically. We kind of got reference to the backstory of Dal in the last episode, and off the tails of that, we get the backstories of Rock Talk. Thank you. Um,
Mhm.
Zero, Jenkum Pog, and the Diviner, which was pretty cool. That was a nice little meanwhile on the Dauntless, we're helping this guy get his memories back, so this is your backstory. I love that.
Yeah. Smart way to do it. Um, it's, uh, this episode is hard and good. And, I mean, it's hard in a good way because everybody's backstory just breaks my heart. It
Yeah.
just hurts me. And that they can create that kind of feeling in me with these characters, and they've been building that up throughout the entire season. Of course, I loved Rock Talk immediately. I loved them all immediately. Well, Dal and Gwyn, I had my problems with at first, but I knew that it would get better, and it did. So I wasn't like hating on them. I was just, I'm glad that stuff didn't last for the entire season. So,
Mm.
and that's another thing, like you were saying, I appreciate how they don't drag things out. Because a lot of things that happen just in the first 10 episodes, I'm like, other shows would have dragged that out for 2, 3 seasons.
Mhm.
And they did that in half a season, and I appreciate that storytelling pace. I really, really do. Because yeah, that stuff from the 80s and 90s, that can go away forever as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating. So this episode is hard, but it's beautiful and it's wonderful and sad and just this freaking Kazon. I mean, come on. What a bunch of jerks.
Yeah.
Still.
Mhm. Well, let's start with Rock Talk's story because that's what we start with in the episode, and I loved how it was presented because of the language barrier between Rock Talk and the champion. They never really got to like converse, but the way they communicate and stuff, like the little winks and that kind of thing. I thought that was a really fun way to tell this story, and I say fun, but it's not the funnest story. As who was it? Oh my goodness. TJ says here, yeah, Rock was sent to a concentration camp for doing improv.
Yep.
That sums it up. That's
Hmm.
yeah, that was so heartbreaking that so yeah, there's this show they put on defeating the monster, and Rock Talk kind of gets tired of that, and it's hurtful, and so she decides to not participate, and then that leads to them changing things up and having fun and doing kind of this comedy thing, but that's not good enough for the person who runs the show or owns them, I guess. I don't know what that relationship is exactly was, but then she gets shipped off to Tars Lamora because of that. Like, that's heavy. Like,
Hmm.
and that was hard to watch because of the way she's telling the story, and it's from a kid's perspective because she's a kid. And don't be sad that that happened, guys. If it hadn't, if I wouldn't have met all of you. And I'm just like bawling at that point. Like,
I
oh my
know, just
god,
like,
kid.
not right. You're hurting
Oh,
my Rock Chalk. I will not have it.
oh, brutal. But yeah, um, man, where? Yeah, I wonder where exactly that was taking place. Like we see, there's Klingons in the audience. That's kind of what I really noticed. And then,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, the geography of the galaxy at this point is always something that I'm always curious about in these episodes. But a lot of times, I'm like, okay, I need to not worry about it too much because like 2 episodes ago, it's like, oh, suddenly we're by the Romulan neutral zone. Okay, that that works. I guess I don't know. I didn't
It's
know
the
where they were.
protostar, right?
Sure.
They did get knocked out of space after out of a warp bubble, so, and they
Hmm.
were using the proto drive at the time, so or
Yeah,
were they about to use it? Or were they No, they were about to use it.
they're
They were
about
trying to
to.
use it, but they were going really fast,
Yeah, yeah.
so they probably crossed a great distance during that short amount of time. That's what I'm going with.
Hmm. Yeah. DJ Kitty Cat points out the posters. They said monster in English.
And it had her name above that, so they understood enough to communicate her name.
Hmm. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that too. I this is the one area where I think TV shows sometimes get a little bit of a pass from me when it's and I mean, this is a bit of a cheat, but
Mm,
it's a story being told by Rock Talk. So
mhm.
there's an unreliable narrator aspect to it as well,
Sure.
where this might be a convention for the benefit of the people listening to the story, i.e., the people watching the TV show.
Right.
So did those posters really say that and look like that? I don't know. Like I said, it's a bit of a cheat, but you can kind of hand wave it.
I
But they
don't
also
think
might
it's
have too.
I don't think it's a cheat, actually. I feel like, um, because notoriously, eyewitness testimonies are not reliable in courts because, it's perception is mutable. It's not the same for every person.
Hmm.
So, I can actually buy that theory without it seeming like cheating because
Yeah.
we are hearing the story from her point of view and seeing the story from her point of view.
Hmm.
So I will go with that and I say not a cheat.
Yeah. This is also a really good point too, and I admit I thought of that while I was watching it. I forgot about it since, but like
Mm.
Rock Talk, maybe that was the name they gave the monster. And you know what I mean? Like, how young was she when she first started? Maybe
Yeah.
That's a really good point, and I did think of that initially when I watched the episode, and I kind of forgot about that. But like that sounds like a monster name, right? Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
To our human ears, anyway. Who knows?
But it also sounds really Brickard, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Yeah,
Maybe we'll know someday. Maybe we'll know. I don't know.
yeah. Hmm.
Hmm.
So yeah, that whole story, man. I don't know how much more I have to say about that other than like I just want to give Rock Talk a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Well, from there we move on to Zero's story, and I love, first of all, how the story is framed too, where Zero is reading Rock Talk's mind, and she initially kind of bristles against that. It's like, why would you read my mind? It's because I care. It's like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
But then, when they're saying like, other people have the tragic backstories too, and Zero seems to kind of want to deflect, and they're like, no, Zero, we want to hear, we can't read your mind. Like, what happened? How did you come to be there? And also heartbreaking.
Mm.
First of all, I was so thrilled just as a geek to see the like Star Trek remastered Medusan starship from the remastered version of the Is There in Truth No Beauty? That's the episode from season 3. That was really cool. Nice little continuity thing there. But the way this one looked with the disembodied, the non-corporeal Medusans all just kind of flying around, that was
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous.
So
And
beautiful.
oh man. Um, and it put me back in my mind to that TOS episode, Is There in Truth No Beauty, where they keep phrasing it as like the Medusans are so ugly that to look upon them drives you insane. And like,
Mm.
no, that's not it. Like there's something about them that humanoid brains can't process. It's not that they're ugly. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
You're
Stop
talking
it with
about my
that.
friend Zero. Darn it.
Yeah, and calling them, I mean, did they call themselves Medusans, or was that a name that the
Right?
Federation gave them? Mm.
uh yeah. So yeah, they were exploring this planet, and Zero kind of got separated from the main group,
He
being
heard oh, they
curious.
heard a noise. They heard a
Yes.
noise.
And Kazons, the Kazon ship. And they're all wearing those visors that Spock wore in that episode. So I was like, okay, yeah, very nice.
Good
But
job.
yeah, and they have some sort of Medusan capturing technology to capture Zero. So, um, and then that's how he ended up in the custody of the diviner, I guess.
Mm.
And that was a heartbreaking scene right at the end too, with Gwyn there, and
Mhm.
then kind of morphing into the present version where she says, "I'm so sorry, I had no idea," and that was brutal.
Mhm. One of my favorite scenes was when they were all just, like, in a ring around the rosy sort of formation, just around and around and around, just happy, and they're like, "Oh, it's time to go." And then Zero's like, "Oh, I heard a noise. I gotta go check that out." Poor Zero.
Yeah. Ah, brutal. Now we've got Jankum Pog's story, which again, like it seems really funny, and then the end is just so heartbreaking. Like,
Devastating.
are you kidding me? Also, I love that, like, in my mind now, they've explained why he speaks in the third person
Mhm.
because he just
Absolutely.
kept having to say it. It just
It
became a
explains so much.
pattern. I love
Yep.
it. I love it.
Explains so much. How long was he awake?
Yeah.
Weeks? Months?
Yeah.
Crazy. We
Enough
don't
to use
really know.
enough oxygen that it would affect, yeah, that was crazy. So yeah, it was a pre-Federation Tellarite sleeper ship. So they were in cryostasis for quite a long time.
Centuries.
Yeah, at least a couple.
Mhm.
And Jenkum Pog gets woken up and has to repair it. That's how he, he's such a good engineer now. That darn robot, I just wanted to smack it. Like, that would have been,
Same. Like,
oh.
who the hell programmed you? What is wrong with you?
Oh, Wellington, that was so heartbreaking.
Mm.
How much for 20, like, there's no longer enough oxygen for 30 tellurites, blah blah. How much for 29? Oh, that was brutal.
Yep.
Yeah, and also, yes, the Enterprise era Tellarite chip, the design, that was lovely. I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know how much to say necessarily about the story. Like, that's pretty much it. He's repairing all the systems and then sacrifices himself, leaves the ship to ensure that they would have a safe journey, but armed only with the thought that they will always remember his name. And then the robot's like, sorry, what's your name?
Please state your name.
I'm Jankum Pa. You know what? Jason
Oh, gee.
Mantzoukas, man.
Jason Mantzoukas is the best. He's just endlessly entertaining.
Oh, man. Yeah. Um. So that brings us to the fourth backstory, which is that of the diviner. And to me, this is not heartbreaking in the same way.
Mm-mm.
This is entitled and self-centered, and yeah. Okay, so
And me shouting multiple times, "No, you did that to yourselves. No, you did that to yourselves. No, you did that to yourselves."
mhm.
That was me, like, every couple minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, the arrival of Starfleet led to a civil war, according to them, um, in which the Federation, and I'm going to quote here, refused to take sides. Yeah, of course. Like, oh man, that was really frustrating. And to me, what went through my mind was the Enterprise episode Terra Prime, Demons and Terra Prime, where
Mhm.
they had the whole like, oh, the Vulcans were up there in World War III, and like they were just letting us destroy themselves. They could have intervened, but they didn't. Like, that's not
Yeah.
the Vulcans' fault. That no, you're the ones doing all this. You can't say, oh well, they didn't stop us. Like, what?
Yeah. And if the Vulcans had intervened, would they have stopped it? No, because that was always going to happen. That was the nature of humanity at the time. There was no
Hmm.
stopping that. There was no stopping that by an outside force.
Yeah.
Unless you literally just separate people physically and, I don't know, brainwash them or something. But acting like that outside force that could have come to your aid is the fault of what happened to you? Hell no.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, like, game that out, like, at least in the case of Earth, if, there's a World War III happening, they're starting to fight, and this outside force comes in and says, stop fighting, and makes it so they, like, yeah, that might unite the Earth, but what that will do is unite them against the people doing that. And then once
And
they're
then,
like, okay, this is more trouble than it's worth, we're out of here, then it resumes again. Like,
yeah, because that's what humans do. Take the
mhm,
Civil War, okay? Before that, it was the Revolutionary War. It was everyone united to fight against the British.
mhm,
Once they had succeeded, then they fought each other. That's what humans do. Still, that's what we do. I don't know why we can't stop that. I don't know why we can't just get along because we're all the same under our skin. We all need to share this planet, and we are killing this planet with our stupidity.
mhm.
Oof. Sorry, rant, mini rant. Sorry about that.
No, Don't apologize at all. 100% behind you on that for sure. And yeah, and it turns out the Vonnegut are just like us. Um, for worse. I'm not going to say for better or for worse. For worse. Um, she met a boy too. Like, give me a break. Okay. Anyway.
I was like,
Yeah.
really? That's what you say? That's such a dad thing to say.
Yeah.
Such a
When,
dad thing.
right in front of her, it's like she's dying, but there's the protostar. I'm going to go to the protostar. And she's like, you weren't going to save me? Oh, yeah. She left because she met a boy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. That makes sense. Anyway. All right. So the final bit of this is Janeway finding out that actually that's kind of how the episode starts, which I really like, is Janeway's learning the names of all of these kids, which again, that's another moment that I'm like, oh, she knows their names now. Okay, that's a big jump I didn't expect. Cool.
Right? Yeah.
Because of an all points bulletin put out by somebody called the
A
Diviner.
diviner.
And she's gonna go question their guest and see if maybe he knows who this diviner is. Goes to Ensign Essensia's quarters because that's where they are, and sees Ensign Essensia in this Vonnegut form, and like, what's going on? And then the single chop to the neck, which is the most Star Trek thing in a show that has done so many Star Trek things. That is the most Star Trek thing it has ever done, and I loved it.
You cannot knock somebody out that way.
You can in Star Trek.
It's just so unrealistic and so Kirk. I mean,
I love it. I thought that
I was
was
just like,
wonderful.
really? I was like,
I
okay,
enjoyed that
whatever.
immensely. I thought that was wonderful.
It certainly took me by surprise. I'm like, oh, is he gonna neck pinch? Oh no. No, he's gonna do a Kirk chop. Okay.
Yep. Kirk chop to the neck. Loved it.
Mhm.
Like, if you do that to somebody, they're just gonna go like, ow, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Anyway, I love it. Maybe it's a special Vonnegut nerve. I don't know. You can say something. Whatever.
Sure.
I
Whatever.
love it.
It's just so like, what just happened?
Oh man. So also the revelation that the protostar, of course, was thrown into the far future, and Chakotay and his crew are still there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody's going to go through a wormhole to the future, I think.
That was wild.
Wow.
I
Wow.
loved, oh shoot, I should have saved this so I could actually, I want to give credit to this because I really liked it, and I hope it is in the Positively Trek discussion group because that's where I remembered it being. But um somebody made a comment about the smirk that Chakotay gives as the protostar takes off.
Mhm.
And uh okay. Oh, okay. So it was Patrick Carlin shared a screen cap of
Mhm.
somebody on Twitter called Only the Janeway, who said Chakotay sending not only the protostar away without him, but also Hollow Janeway with it was super sad. But his chuckle as they left was about knowing damn well the havoc Admiral Janeway would wreak to find and rescue him, wasn't it?
Mhm.
I love that. That is a terrific interpretation.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was looking at that like, you have no idea the hell I'm unleashing on y'all. You will find out. Wish
That
I
was
could be
fun.
there to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great. Well, that's a big, like, it's a big episode for Revelations, which is funny in that it was an episode that's like at the beginning you think, oh, it's just some backstories. We'll learn a little bit more about our characters. But of course, here comes the main plot rearing its head and hitting us upside the head with a brick of exposition. I don't know. My metaphor got a little lost there at the end, but
That's okay.
yeah.
Or a neck chop.
You go neck chop of exposition. Yes. Delivering a neck chop of exposition. I am writing that down.
I'm going to use that in the future.
Oh, if I still did written reviews of episodes, that would have been in there. That's great. But yeah, I'm loving this. I'm continually just blown away by the complexity of this story and all the pieces and where everything's ending up, and the fact that Chakotay, that's why we don't know where he is and can't find him. He's off in the far future. Like, that's wild. So
And
yeah,
he had a bird person. I think, was it a score or an Aurelian? I think it was a score.
it could have been, yeah. I wasn't sure which either. It was so fast. This is one episode I've only watched the one time, which is
I watched it
rare.
twice. So,
Yeah.
but even so, I'm just like, I can't see if he's got growing plumage because of the uniform, so I can't tell you
Yeah.
if it's an Elorian or if it's a score. So one has growing plumage, one doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if the I don't know what his rank was, but I don't know if that officer would take kindly to your wanting to inspect his growing plumage or lack
I
thereof.
didn't say I wanted to inspect it. I just, I could just kindly ask, do you have growing plumage? But then if I'm going to ask, I say, are you score or Aurelian? Which would also be offensive. You think we all look alike?
Oh man, there's no winning. Ugh. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and Wellington, I'm saying groin, as in the groin area of the body where the legs meet the torso, the groin. Yeah, groin plumage. Look it up.
Yeah.
Don't look up groin plumage.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
The views
That's
expressed by
probably
the
going to be
hosts
bad.
of the Unready Room do not necessarily reflect. I'm just kidding.
Just look up Aurelians and look up score, and you'll understand what I say.
Oh my goodness. So the one character that we still don't have a lot of backstory for is Murph. From whence did Murph come? That's what I would like to know. But maybe someday he'll be able to tell us. Maybe. I don't know. That would be cool.
Well, he is evolving.
That's true. Yeah. But until that day, we just have his delightful cooing, as the closed captioning says whenever he makes his noises. So thank you, D. Bradley Baker, for your contented cooing. I appreciate it.
We do.
But in the meantime, anything I've missed, any final thoughts, and a rating for Preludes?
Well, it just occurred to me because at the end of the episode, we see Essentia turn back into Essentia. And she presses this thing on the back of her neck, which actually looks a lot like the same button that Dal had.
Right? Yeah. And people pointed that out in the comments. And every time I watch it, I kind of clock on that and then forget about it later. So
yeah, well, see, I didn't make the connection, and then I just suddenly did. Because I was thinking about, that's just weird. How can she? And then I'm thinking, what if that is a thing like what Dal had, and it's literally rewriting her genetic code, and that's how she's able to pass as Trill?
That makes sense. And I mean, there's definitely a connection, because like they didn't have to even create the shot where we see the back of her neck and she in the same episode, that Dal uses it, right? So that makes a lot of sense, rewriting her DNA, because otherwise you could just have her like hit something like, or she could have just gone like this, but they made the point of like showing you
Hmm.
front and center, right? So
Yep.
yeah,
Interesting.
very
That was not
interesting.
an accident. It was not an accident that we saw that, obviously.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So any other final thoughts and ratings? And that goes, of course, for the fine folks in the comments as well.
This episode made me cry. Big surprise there. It's beautiful and it's hard. And yeah, the Valnacott reek of privilege and can eat it. Um, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this. I didn't expect there to be that much movement in the plot. And again, just they are subverting my expectations of what a show like this can be, and I appreciate that so much. So I will give this one one bowl of Nutrigoop, one giant bowl of
Oh,
Nutrigoop.
yeah. The only
Full,
food. Oh,
full.
yeah.
Big full giant bowl.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love this episode. Um Again, I don't want to say it's my favorite episode so far. It's my favorite episode right now because I just watched it. But yeah, I really liked it. I love the backstories, as heartbreaking as they are. I love that we're learning more about these characters. And yeah, like we said, it kind of lulls you into that false sense of like, oh, okay, this will be a little side trip while we're getting repaired. We'll learn a little bit about our friends that we're watching and stuff. Oh, no, wait, we've just advanced a whole bunch of plot points, and Janeway's knocked out at the end of this episode and under the control of the diviner and the what was her name? I can't remember. Insonescencia, whatever the she
I
had
can't
a
remember
thing
her
like
name
the diviner,
for yeah. I can't remember.
but yeah, she's under their control right now and at their mercy. And like, what is going to happen there? And Chakotay's in the future. And oh my goodness, it's the Vindicator. Thank you, TJ and DJ. So yeah, oh, I'm reading your guys.
There's not actually chops in judo. Judo doesn't do chops. That's that is a thing that happened because of Austin Power.
I was gonna
Austin
say, yeah,
Powers.
judo chop.
And no, there are no chops in judo. Judo is not
No,
about chops at all.
no.
Agreed. Or maybe she
Yeah,
did, but Vice Admiral Janeway can just barge into anybody's quarters no matter what.
that makes sense. That makes sense. So yeah, oh, I've got to give it a rating. I'm gonna give it like one exploratory mission of beautiful Medusans
Mm,
exploring a world. Um
mm,
yeah, that
lovely.
was beautiful. That whole sequence was just gorgeous looking. Anyway,
Breathtaking.
I think I need a new computer desktop background from something in that. So
Yes.
yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see where the rest of this season is going. There's so much going on. I can't believe what is this? I guess 4 episodes left in the season. So yeah, we'll be back next week. For now, I think we will be. Um, there may be something that preempts it. I'm hoping not. But if everything goes as planned, it will be the earlier time, which is oh, and I missed David's 5 out of 5 backstories. Um, I'm thinking if that works for you, Brandi, earlier in the day, so noon our time. If that works, perfect. So that would be 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, there's like a 7% chance that something might happen to preempt it. But as far as I know right now, it's a go. I even took that day off for other reasons from work. So I don't know. Yeah. Really hoping we're back next week to talk about the next episode. Until then, as always, live long and live logs and proper.
Nanu, nanu.
And live yeah, and live long and prosper. And yeah, we'll see you hopefully next week, but if not, definitely in the near future again to talk about more Star Trek Prodigy. And live logs and proper. Take care, everybody.